So a little update for you guys. Doug Wilson just responded to Kevin DeYoung's criticism. I guess that's technically what you could call it, even though it didn't have any theological teeth, even though it missed the point entirely and basically said the same stuff that so many people have been saying for so long, and they don't care in Moscow, so I don't know what the point was. Anyways, he responded by being giddy with all of his employed fanboys. They probably broke some arms. I'm sure that there were some EMTs that were on scene because of all the broken arms from them high-fiving over at Cannon Press because Kevin DeYoung fell for it. Let's take a look.
November, we've had a big time. You said it earlier. You thought, man, this has been one of the best ones. This one's been the best.
Yeah, this has been the best because the other team came out to play.
That's good.
So in previous Novembers, we've been interacting with the zeitgeist, which is sort of like being in a fist fight with the fog.
Yeah.
Right. You're
Or an imaginary boogeyman.
dealing with all the crazy stuff you heard about this previous year and the general vibe and that sort of thing. But this November, we had at least 3 episodes where other people came on the field and made it what it was.
What it was.
We're so grateful.
We're so grateful.
There was your.
Did you hear that? Like, I mean, whatever. I'm okay with sarcasm. Obviously, I'm going to be using that quite a bit during this video. I'm okay with sarcasm. But he is just kind of laughing off this criticism. And I think that should really make Kevin DeYoung think about what he did and understand that he really failed. He really botched it. Because if your opponent, your argumentative opponent, is laughing and saying thank you, you probably didn't do a good job.
Your exchange with Karen Swallow Pryor and the empathy thing, that was one November-y thing.
Yep.
And then there was the spanking video.
Yeah. Nancy kept coming off the top rope.
Nancy put us all in the shade. And then...
This is Moscow for you. They're so happy that everyone was talking about this abuse that Nancy Wilson apparently did by her own admission, talking at a conference of taking a 3 to 4 year old, maybe younger kid, and 30 minutes later, I don't know how long, but a distance of time and space, removing them from not being happy to see them, not throwing a fit, just aw, and being disappointed to, disciplining them physically. I think it's an abuse, and they're just kind of laughing it off and being like, wow, that was so great that we got all over the place. They don't care. They don't care what gets them in the headlines as long as they get in the headlines.
It was the Kevin DeYoung piece that just hit at the tail end to sort of finish off the month.
Yeah, that's actually a good place to start. Let's talk a little bit about the DeYoung piece. I think first thing to say is it was good because it was an attempt to be clear, fair, and to get at some really important issues.
Yeah, he just as someone who studies rhetoric and writing and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
most of our enemies are unhinged.
Right.
So when they come against us, they think that if one's good, two's better. Mm-hmm. If there's one orc in Moscow, let's make there be 3 orcs in Moscow, and everybody's an orc, everybody's a Klingon.
Yeah,
they're all unhinged.
All right. Like, I get they like Lord of the Rings, but that's just a little too nerdy for me. Even me.
All demented. And the people who have any acquaintance with what's going on here know that that's not true. Yeah. And so they dismiss it. But then they say, but why all the vehemence? And then they give us a second look. So the people who are unhinged critics are people whose criticisms do nothing, I think, long run, but help us.
Right.
Kevin DeYoung made the very shrewd decision. I think it was a conscientious one, but he didn't demonize us.
Right.
There are a number of things that he said, this is what they do well, this is good, this is good.
Yeah.
I understand how reasonable Christians would be attracted to that.
Right.
But I think there's a fly in the ointment. Right. I think there's a problem. And his criticism was a weighty criticism.
Right.
But he didn't make the mistake of trying to demonize us and make it appear what everybody knew was not true as the truth.
Yeah. So
he was nice to us. and he didn't go for the jugular. So thanks for putting us in the headlines. That's essentially what that was. And then they break off. You don't have to watch the whole video, but they break off to talk about, ooh, how are you going to be tackling this? And they kind of get giddy talking about their plans for their vlogs and their videos. And, it's basically like patting each other on the back for, oh, that's a unique angle. How are we going to make products out of this, content out of this thing? Kevin DeYoung messed up big time by not talking about federal vision, by not dealing with the actual theology behind everything that's going on at Moscow. And I believe the root cause of all the effects that you see of the degrading talk about women, the constant use of profanity, and, we could debate about whether it's appropriate or not for a Christian to use a cuss word here and there. But I think it's pretty clear. If you just look at the language that Moscow uses, that's out there. That's out there. And just the tone that they have. Instead, you focus on all those effects and they're happy for it. They're appreciative. Kevin DeYoung just did Doug Wilson a huge favor of failing. We got Karen Swallow Pryor. We got Karen Swallow Pryor hanging out with us on Twitter and talking about empathy. Ooh, that was great for us. Was it? Why? How is that a big thing? Oh, this abuse conversation about my wife. Apparently that's a great thing for us. Is it? Well, Kevin DeYoung came in and said, here you go. Here's one that you could just hit out of the park, because it was the softest criticism with zero theological teeth that he could have given. And it's a huge disappointment for us as people who would have expected. I would say a gatekeeper. He has a website called Clearly Reformed. So clearly he should be reformed. And clearly he should know about justification by faith alone and be able to articulate the differences between something that is not justification by faith alone, like federal vision. But, as a gatekeeper, he's asleep. The rest of the gatekeepers, where are they? Where are the people? There have to be people, right? TGC, some of the guys who were in part of T4G, some of those kinds of institutions, 9 Marks. Where are these guys who looked at the article and said, oh, man, he really should have talked about that thing? There's got to be people like that. I can't be the only one on the internet who's just like, why didn't he talk about federal vision? But why aren't they talking about federal vision? Why aren't they making articles being like, you know what? Kevin DeYoung kind of missed it on this little part. Let's focus in on that. Where are they? The gatekeepers are asleep. You and me. I have accepted the role. All right. Maybe I'm not the most qualified for it. I just hang out in my basement. But you know what? I'm willing to talk about the things. So yes, crown me. I might not be the Christian prince, but I guess I'll be the gatekeeper, because Kevin DeYoung certainly isn't. I'll see you in the next video.